Hey everybody, this is a follow-up video to my how to make a Viking Round Shield video. You can find the link in the description below, or right here I guess. This is just an alternate version of how to do a handle for your shield. My past video I did a maple handle, and this time I thought I would do a steel and maple handle. So I hope you enjoy.
So I start off with getting the diameter of the center hole on my shield. Then after that I do a little math just to see how far I want the handle to go across the diameter of the full shield. Then I have decided to draw 1/4 of the handle so I can make it all symmetrical. In theory, I've decided to draw my handle with the taper, just like I have here on my old handle. Just checking the width of the handle itself. So after I've finished drawing out my handle, I will grab a utility knife and cut out the first 1/4 of it. I don't know if this is the best way to do this, but off the top of my head, it's what I figured would work, and it did, so. Just make a line for the center, then just match my 4/4 so I can have a full handle template. I could have just done half of it and folded it over, I guess, as another option. I had some 16 gauge mild steel kicking around the shop to use for the handle. I've made a handle out of aluminum. I've made a handle out of 18 gauge. I just happened to be filming this video and I had 16 gauge lying around. I probably should have used some cutting oil with this, but it seemed to go through it pretty well. I do like the look of mild steel more than stainless, more than aluminum. So that's why I went with mild. Well, I had it around the shop, but I probably would have went and got some anyways. Though I'll have to keep an eye on it for rust. I really don't have a problem with that. I ended up spending a lot of time on the belt sander, just using different grits of sandpaper, making sure everything was as even as I could make it, getting rid of the burrs and smoothing everything out. Then I just finished it up with some super fine sandpaper, smooth out all the edges. I'm just checking the diameter of the hole again so I can cut the wood for the handle. So just get my measurement and then grab the maple piece that I have lying around here and check the camera, mark where I'm going to cut it, and take it over to the jigsaw. I guess I could have cut this on the bandsaw since I'm taking it there next, but whatever. So the cut I'm doing on this handle is purposefully off center. I want the handle to sit in towards the shield boss. I work in the film industry building props and costumes, and there was something too perfect about the smoothness of the steel, so I took a hammer to it, trying to give it some kind of rough from the hammer finish. There's certainly better patina options than a small bottle of gun blue if you're looking for a bang for your buck, like use Jack's or something like that. But this worked for me. I had it kicking around. Hell, I even remembered to wear gloves, which is amazing. Not something I want to pour all over my skin. Here I'm just checking the size of the handle piece inside the shield boss hole, so I can figure out how much I have to sand off it. Not bad, nice and snug, perfect. Now I've got to match up the other half of the handle and sand them down evenly. Once they're both about the same, I take them apart and sand each individual piece to my liking. Just getting the sharp edges off, nothing too crazy. Just remember, you don't really want to sand any of the edges that are going to be touching the steel handle, because you would like to see them flush against the handle. So just the outside edges of the handle are what I'm sanding away, just a little bit. The majority of the handle sanding will come when it's finally attached to the steel. Mark 3 holes, because I'm going to rivet this handle directly to the steel bar. So I'm going to plan my holes out and then take it to the drill press. I'm drilling out my 3 holes in one side of the handle, and then I'm going to use that as a template to drill the other half of the handle. And then I'm going to use one of those as a template to mark my holes to drill the steel. So I'm just using a little scratch awl that I had lying around to make tiny little marks, because I can't fit a pen in there. And then once those marks are made, I'll carefully find them and mark them with my pen. I didn't feel the need to use any cutting fluid here. It ended up going through the steel pretty easily. I'm going to use the center hole of the wood to mount my first rivet in my handle. And then I'll use the remaining holes on the wood as my template to where to drill for my other 2 rivets on the steel. I'm using copper rivets here, sometimes called belt rivets. They have a flat back and will enable me to get the low profile I want so it doesn't interfere with my hand. I even flip the handle over here and just make sure that the other side doesn't have any edge. Now that that first rivet is set, I can drill the other 2 holes through the steel and peen over the other 2 copper rivets that will hold the handle together. Same thing on both rivets, just make sure they're nice and flush to the wood. Now the more you peen your rivets, the more it's going to put pressure on the wood itself, so just make sure you set them properly and don't overpeen them, forcing cracks in your handle. And now it's time to sand the handle and just get the perfect shape that I want. There's a lot of sanding here, so I have a lot of fast forwarding, but I am checking the handle constantly to make sure that it's the shape that I want. I can't stress that enough. Take your time, since the shape of your handle is kind of the most important part of your handle. Well, next to making sure it stays on your shield, I guess, but you know what I'm saying. This was a little finicky because it was done with an old shield that still had the shield boss attached. If I'm making a shield from scratch, I'd always line the shield handle up before the boss is attached. But after I got it lined up and figured out where the mounting holes on the handle were going, it went pretty smoothly. I just marked them with a drill, recentered them, drilled them out, and then moved on from there. Now I use the rivet that I'm going to mount to it to test if everything lined up properly, which it did. Now I'll just put a washer on it and get ready to peen it. I've got divots drilled into my anvil so I can rest the dome head of the rivet in it, snip it off, and pound it out without flattening the head of the rivet at all. I take it away, I drill it, I bring it back. I forgot to record it. I'm sure you remember what it looked like about 60 seconds ago when I drilled a hole. When you're snipping these rivets, they fly off pretty fast. So if you haven't done it before, close your eyes, look away, or better yet, wear glasses. Now I'm going to put 2 more rivets in it, one at either end of the handle to make sure it's secure. Now, if I was going to do this again, I'd probably drill it from the other side just to make sure the holes were right in the middle of the handle. But they did turn out pretty close, so it's not bad. I had to rush off to Penzik with this shield and figured I'd do a leather wrap on it when I got back. I found that without any kind of finish or cover on the wood, the handle would swell, creating a sharp edge where the wood no longer sat flush with the metal. So, since I had planned on a leather wrapped handle anyways, it was nice to figure out that I actually needed a leather wrapped handle. So I've just measured the length of the handle and guessed how much I needed to go around it. And if it was good, then great. Otherwise, I'd trim it. But it was almost spot on, so I might have trimmed it a little bit. Then I just cheat some holes with my sewing machine and hand stitch it up. There's a variety of stitches you could use to put this leather piece onto the handle, but I just looped my way down the handle and then tied it off at the other end. When I get to the other end, I'm using a curved needle. I've bent my needle with a set of pliers, and that's just helping me get into the tight corners and finish off my knots. I can't remember why I left it open at the other end and came back to it later, but I did, so I finished it off here. The close-up in high speed may make it look like I'm doing something fancy here, but really I'm just pushing a needle through holes, knotting it, pushing it through another hole, knotting it, and making it secure. Well, thanks everybody for watching my third video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Maybe leave me some comments on things you liked or didn't like about the video so I can make changes in the future.